I'd like to introduce now Parth from Airia. It's always hard to say that and look at it.
Yeah.
But it's funny how Parth's going to walk you through a little bit about Airia. They are the ones that brought all our pizza and food and beverages.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you
So,
want some more, go get it anytime. Just feel free to go there now.
absolutely. So, by the way, thanks again, everyone, for coming here. A lot of familiar faces. Kenny, hello. And yeah, so let's get started. Just want to give you a quick overview of what we do at Airia, and hopefully you get some value out of this panel. And then, yeah, we'll just show you what we do. So, what we see overall, Airia is an AI security orchestration platform. We have observed that overall, whenever someone is trying to deploy AI, there are a lot of things that block them from truly deploying and truly embracing AI. So what are some of those things? The first thing is scale issues, deployment worries, and security concerns, just some basic out-of-the-box stuff. You see there are vulnerabilities that come up every now and then that prevents you from adopting AI at an enterprise level or even within your own company. There are outages that happen, hallucinations, and if you look at some of the research that has been done on it, there are a lot of different challenges that go all the way from lack of executive buy-in, which is the least, because every executive that I work for has been pushing AI over the last 2 to 3 years, all the way till not trusting the output or answers or lack of context, which are some of the issues that we have seen. This leads to certain risks. You have increased vulnerabilities, inaccurate output, certain compliance issues that you have to deal with depending on the industry you all are in. And so the intent of Airia is not just to help you to build agents, but you want to make sure you can build it fast and build it secure. So that's the goal. We also help with the end-to-end lifecycle management of all of these agents. So we can identify and discover any agents that are in your network, implement those if you don't have it built already. We can help with change management, version control, secure any of those agents using guardrails, red teaming, and some of the other functionality. And finally, monitor them, connect them to your existing security tools that you have, flag alerts. So overall, it's an end-to-end platform. And so the goal is eliminate your AI anxiety and embrace AI with Airia. As you can see here, we have agent prototyping and orchestration on one end, where you can do agent building, data integration with anything that you can throw at us, be it MCPs, be it tool calls, classic data sources, or enterprise search. All the way till AI security and governance, we have AI security posture management, responsible AI guardrails, agentic security routing engine, and much more. That was it. I think I hit my 5 minutes.
Yeah, you did great.
Yeah, see, there you go. I was told if you go beyond 5 minutes, he's going to kick me out of the
It's a con.
but yeah.
It comes out of the door.
Yeah, exactly. If you're interested, if any of this is of interest to you, just come and swing by, talk to us. But yeah, I'm here just as an AI Collective member as well. So happy to be a part of this. And Mark, back to you.
All right. We're going to chat for a second or two about AI Collective. And the panelists, if you want to go ahead and have a seat, you can. It's going to take too long. Oh, by the way, who is it behind your company?
Oh, our chairman is John Marshall, who started AirWatch, mobile device management company that was sold to VMware about 10 years ago, and then also was a big part of starting OneTrust as well. Got a big Atlanta roots.
Yeah.
Thought that's important. Okay, so a little bit about AI Collective. First of all, we're still really new. Back in June, late May, June, 3 of us stood up, raised our hands, said we'd like to be involved in starting up a chapter. Rashmi's over there. She runs this area, and she just got back from India, so I had scheduled this event here. But normally she would be running events in Alpharetta, Cumming, Norcross, Peachtree Corners, and Johns Creek. So if you are in that area and you're interested in having an event, or you have a place to have an event, get in touch. We're looking for more people in Woodstock, Smyrna, all over the place. Also, universities, we're wanting to start up chapters at those. And the thing about a grassroots volunteer organization is it gets a little loose at the beginning, and there's some 70,000 members. You can imagine trying to answer everyone's questions at once when you're only a couple hundred people. And that the growth has been really phenomenal. Just to tell you a little bit about it, their goal right now is to have several thousand chapters across the world. And so they've got a ways to go, and that's going to happen through sub-chapters, micro-chapters, and also things like verticals, marketing, HR, etc. So far, they've only started about 2 years ago, And one of the coolest things I like about it, and I haven't seen it on here, but they do all kinds of events. And these events that we organize as volunteers, they have a whole bunch of lists of these kind of events. It could be anything from a living room to coffee to ice cream social to whatever. But they actually have guidelines for all of these events to do. And these partners down here are paying everything for you to be here. So here's the deal. You're already a member now. If you signed up on Luma, you're a member. Congratulations. You'll get a bill later. I'm just kidding about the bill. It's free because of those partners. And guess what? They gave away last year, I think it was, or no, to date, $95 million has been invested in startups. So we're hoping to get enough momentum in this chapter with around 1,000 or so people, and then we can start having those kind of pitch nights and start getting some investors in. There were some investors in our last social. They were wondering, I think they met 3 different people there. They are carrying forward with investing. And that was just a social. So our goal here within the AI Collective, and again, I'm just a volunteer and started in June, same with Rashmi. We're learning as we go. But essentially, there's 3 big community values, and that is to share knowledge, connect with people, and drive a collective progress. So what does that mean exactly? Share what you're working on. Talk to people. Hey, you got a cool breakthrough? You discover something new on a new app or something? Did you find a new tool? What are you exploring? Ask others the same. Deepen our human connection. Ask about why are you doing what you're doing? What's the purpose behind your work? And that genuine spark of interest, really share your own uniqueness. Driving that collective progress. It's a win-win and it's a pay forward. I'm meeting people every day. Having organized a lot of events in CX community, that community was well known in Atlanta. A lot of people know each other because of that. Hopefully we'll have that same sort of familiarity here among the faces and people. So that's the goal at Boost. And this means for you, a lot of connections, a lot of, you know who you can call for various things, and that's helpful. I'm not an agent builder, and I don't know if I ever want to be. They're agent builders. And that's why we're here tonight, is to talk about the panel and all the wonderful things you guys do. So what I'd like to do is have you introduce yourselves, and just so you understand our agenda, we are here. Greetings, and now we're getting ready to move to panel. So the next 90 minutes or so, we're going to have a discussion. If you have questions that you'd like to ask, then by all means, just raise your hands and we'll try to get it to you. I just know that every question is going to back up everybody. I do have 2 more things before we go into the panel, and that is raise your hand if you're looking for a job. All right, employers, look. All right, raise your hand if you're in a company that's hiring. All right, don't be shy. Okay, all right, so try to connect with each other, all right? We're going to do that at every meeting going forward. All right, yeah, it was his idea, actually. Within the idea of agent builders, it just seems like there's a lot going on. We're going to get into all that in a minute. But first, let's have everyone tell us who you are. And as you do that, who you are, what's your company. Don't go into platforms and stuff yet. Don't say that. But I would like to know, what are you known for? And what's your favorite hobby outside of AI? If you have one.
That's all AI.
Right? Andrew, we'll start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew Tabit, and I'm running a small dev shop. So I've been working in software development for over 25 years in different positions, as a developer, as an architect, as a tech lead. I was part of a startup, as a co-founder of CTO, and I always thought that development, software development, is fundamentally wrong in the way of how it is, and so we run source code, and like to me, like I'm a coder, but I hate coding. So it's just, to me it feels unnatural. But before AI, it was like a little bit futuristic and utopia, thinking that it must have been a different way. But when I first saw what ChatGPT generated the source code, and so I realized that developers are doomed, and so we're not going to work the same way anymore. So right now we are in this transition, so I'm very excited to be in this transition. So because I'm not only a software developer, but I'm also an entrepreneur. So as an entrepreneur, I'm very excited about what is going on. If I were just a developer, I would probably be a little bit bored. That's what it is. So this basically, I was introduced to AI as many other people did 3 years ago when ChatGPT was released. I didn't know anything about it before. And right now I'm very much into it, and I am very much into AI coding. And I hope that AI technology will get so good that it can do like things like AI agents that manage businesses, operations, and everything. So I want one to manage my company. It's not doable yet, but hopefully it will. So that's really how do you go? I play soccer. So I'm from Europe, so I don't play football, I play soccer. That's my hobby.
Excellent. All right, and Tracye Fudge.
Hi, I'm Tracye Fudge. Thank you all for being here. It's great. My background is not linear. I actually read an article on this. But anyway, I started out in sales. I was in high-tech sales, selling software before people really knew what software was. They just knew about the hardware. And that puts a little bit of age on it. But it was a long time ago. And then from there, I moved into marketing operations by accident. Somebody said, hey, can you manage this email thing we have? And that was Marketo and Eloqua. So that's how I got into marketing operations. And inside of that, you're dealing with a lot of APIs and connected systems and workflows. So we were doing AI before it was called. And then the agentic side of things, I started an agency for AI. It's the second agency that I started. It started a couple years ago. And we're still evolving. I'm still evolving. But we're settling on the AI operations, which kind of touches a little bit of it all. And, with agentic workflows being the main part of it. Advise companies. A lot of companies are in a turnaround situation. They're downsizing, so I'm working with some interim executives to make some things happen fast. So that's my niche right now.
Got a hobby?
Pickleball.
All right. Excellent. Swati.
Hi everyone, Swati Jain. So I have been a corporate professional for over 20 years, much like many of you in this room, mostly as an operator between business and technology. My heart is always in solving business problems. Technology is a vehicle for it. I have spent a good majority of those 20 plus years in building and launching software B2B products. So anything I look at with the business lens first. And I've also spent around 5 to 8 years in consulting digital transformations around business systems, such as Atlassian Stack as well as Salesforce ecosystem, more on the partner side. So a lot of digital transformations, a lot of workflow orchestration, streamlining, automations, as well as advising startups on their product and just team structure. My journey with AI, and of course being in technology, we've all worked with different kinds of systems, deterministic systems in the past, but more, and of course machine learning solutions as well, but more on the generative AI side. My journey started around 1.5 years ago. And earlier this year, I've launched fully into building agents. So I've built a few agents mostly for smaller companies looking to just streamline some of their operations. This could be around RFP reviews and assessment of whether or not this is the right fit for you, or even for consultants to build their digital twins equivalent and other kinds of business process automations. As she mentioned, we also run an AI workshop. I think that's my hobby right now. At least that's what my family thinks I do all day outside of work, is just keeping myself appraised on everything that's happening in the AI space and serving my community in a manner so I can translate, I can remove the noise, the hype, and translate it to what's meaningful, what's not, and bring people along on this journey. But yeah, I do have a life outside of AI. I love to do yoga, I love to go out for walks, a lot of music, just keep it vibrant and diverse. Good to be here today, and thank you for joining.
Excellent. We've chatted a little bit before this and come up with a flow that seems to work. And so we're going to start off with the fact that this is all new to everybody. There's really no experts that I've met yet, even the people who are making this stuff. So learning the language and the AI landscape, especially around agents, agentic, agent, automation. Can you guys help me with this? Here's a slide that Tracye provided. And it's essentially the breakthrough of before and after. I'll just try to read here if you can't. Essentially, before, it would just give you one kind of response, right? And now it's going to give you a response plus a whole bunch of things, and whatever you key it up to. So it's also more natural language in response. It doesn't just give you one thing, and then it'll go through and put those things together. Like I said, grab one. So I'll just ask it, whoever would like to jump in and tell me what these things mean.
The agent versus agentic.
Agent versus agentic versus automation.
It's hard. It's not so easy. Agentic is just when you need them to communicate and make a next step forward. So make a decision, something that it has to do. And that's where the LLM comes in. So a good example for me is a lead comes into HubSpot, right? That lead in a perfect world is redirected to a salesperson right away. So the salesperson call the lead. There's a lot of intelligence that goes on between the entry point and that lead. You've got to enrich that lead that came in. Maybe you've only got first name. You've got to, and that's an agent. Then you've got to route the lead to a certain territory. Let's say it's all set up in Salesforce on that side of it or something of that degree. And then you've got to apply normalization. What if their title came in as vice president, but the system likes VP? So there's a normalization effort to it. And some of these massive systems do these all themselves. Like you could argue that Salesforce has all the components or HubSpot has all the components to do them all. But a lot of organizations are not set up that way. To have one multi-million-dollar platform that does it all, and you can do it all for a fraction of the price with a few agents that are trained with a knowledge base. That's a long way to say that, what would you argue? It's the agentic part of it where so there's an agent that calculates the score. Let's say it's a hot lead. There's an agent that decides that. It's what then happens after that makes the agentic part. Like those then have to talk to each other in a sequential way. And if it messes up, it's self-learning.
So to add to that, I think in context of the tools that we use, right? When I think of the earlier iteration of ChatGPT, that was an agent. You had an interface to interact with the LLM in the form of this conversational interface where you could go and put in some question and you would get some output back. It was nothing more than that, right? Tracy said it's input and output. It's basic task orchestration. That's an example of an agent where it's powered by an LLM. That's the intelligence layer. And it's very task-oriented, right? It's very basic task-oriented, not complex task-oriented. You give it an input and it will give you an output as a one-shot result. And that's the extent of what it does. When you start to look at some of the more sophisticated evolutions of these chat interfaces, whether you are a Lovable user, if you have coded through Lovable agents, or if you look at even Perplexity and how it performs and orchestrates a research, or if you look at a deep research agent in ChatGPT, whatever your tool of choice is, it's less relevant here, right? But when you look at all of these, this is where agentic pipelines come in. Now these are not just a single task operation, these are an orchestration pipelines, right? So you have a higher level, think of it as a multi-agent orchestrator that has the intelligence to interpret the task, to infer what the question is, what the intent is, what the context is, and then perform operations like going and research, collecting more data on each answer, right? Then what information of this is good, qualifying whether it's good or bad, filtering it, then calling a third agent in the pipeline to synthesize this information, to score this information, and then a fourth agent to summarize and maybe validate this information and to finally present the output. So this is where the evolution from agent to agentic is that an agentic solution is more workflow orchestration. It typically involves multiple agents, has not just access to an LLM for intelligence, but it's also tapping into memory, it's tapping into tools, different kind of context. You might have heard of RAG, for instance. And it's giving you an output that is more grounded in reasoning. So that's how I think of agent versus agent.
I'm sharing another slide you guys can't see here, sorry, but this other slide from Tracye has got 4 main areas that define AI agents, so we can carry into that further. They're not in any order: tools integration, strategic planning, contextual memory, and autonomous execution. Tell me a little bit about the autonomous part here. And also,
So I want to
follow up, yeah.
because we're going to have other topics, but this definition part is really important. So I want to give it a shot as well. So again, I'm a software developer, so my definitions come from this angle. Yeah. When I think about the agents, agentic workflows, automation in general, so I'm thinking about generally humans, and we humans, we have been trying to automate things like for hundreds, thousands of years, right? So we just want to do less, with less efforts, and to get more, right? So it's all about coming up with tooling and all that. So and what we're doing right now with AI is nothing new. I mean, so but when you're going to step back a little bit and you think about, okay, so I have a task. Let's say I need to go to Publix and buy a milk, right? So that's my task. So I'm a human, and I come up with a workflow how to execute on this task. So I know steps, right? So I get into my car, I go, I drive big, come back, and all that, right? So that's steps. Who is the designer of this workflow? Me, human, right? So let's say when we talk about workflows, we say someone designs it. Okay? So for now, it's just human. Human can design workflow. Then we execute workflow, right? So in my example with Meliker, I'm executing, right? So I do steps. But now when we think, okay, so I don't want to go there, so maybe I can delegate to someone, right? So that someone can execute on my behalf, right? And we know computers can do that, right? So we start using computers to execute workflows, and that's what we call automation in our like standard way, like NAN and other tools like UiPath and all those. So this is when automation is kind of right? So when computer executes our workflow, but we are still designers. That's important. So we design a workflow and computers execute this workflow. Let's add another component to this. During execution, we can delegate some steps to someone or something, right? So in a standard automation, let's say we can delegate to other systems, to other workflows, let's say, and humans. So that's when we can start talking about human in the loop, even with standard automation, without AI automation, right? We didn't have LLMs, so we've been working like this for years. Now we invented LLMs, and we start thinking, okay, what if we start delegating to LLMs? What's going to happen? So for instance, when we do some marketing campaigns and we had to come up with marketing materials with Twitter posts ourselves, and now it can be done all by LLMs. So now, in possible delegates, we have LLMs. So in my world, how I understand this, if we can delegate on an LLM, it's a agentic workflow. So we have, we as humans design workflow, computers execute workflows, but we can delegate on LLMs, part of it. Right? So it's a agentic workflow. And generally speaking, most of automation around us, it's not just agentic workflows, because we delegate, let's say when we use and we add a node, LLM node into this, it's a typical example of agentic workflow. Now let's fantasize a little bit. Okay, what are AI assistants, for instance? Because when it comes to LLMs, we can talk about AI assist, right? What is that? And so does it fall into these categories? So the thing is that when, let's say, I open up ChatGPT and I ask a question, so what is going on? So I, as a human, I design a workflow. So I do something. I use ChatGPT for some purpose, right? So I design it. Then I execute it on it. But I delegate some steps on ChatGPT. So basically, this is what AI assistants are. So it's still, it's not automation, it's just AI assistants, right? They help me do my workflow. Now, finally to AI agents. We start thinking, okay, if we design workflows, but computers execute workflows, can computers design workflows for us? Because it opens up a completely new spectrum of tasks that we can automate, right? Because real life is more complex than just static workflows. So that's why we hire people, because we're not sure what kind of workflow we need to implement here and there when it comes to tasks, right? So when I'm the boss, I assign some task to an employee. Employee comes up with an idea what kind of workflows he or she is supposed to use. But we realize that LLMs are smart enough, maybe they can help us with that, right? So when workflow, so by my definition, again, you can agree or disagree, but by my definition, is when LLM designs workflow, this is what we call AI agents, in a simple way. So, for example, if LLM designs a workflow and then deploys it to NAN, for instance, for execution, for me it's AI agent. And then AI coding, for instance, again, I'm from that round. So AI coding, when I'm using Windsurfer, Cloud Code or Codex or some other AI agents, for instance. So they are agents. Why? Because I talk to them, but they decide what files to change, how to change it. So they come up with certain workflows to do it. So that's what I would call an agent. But again, in my opinion, most of automations around us are just agentic workflows. Because in order to implement, to create an AI agent, I'm not sure if technology is ready for that in this full scale. So that's, yeah, I know it was a long story, but that's important because definitions are important, right? Because then we're going to talk.
No, that makes sense, and I think that branches into
That
what
leads to the next
Mark
question.
was asking. It's a good segue, right? Because
Yeah.
it takes us into the autonomous side of an agent. So when I think of automation versus autonomous, right? Automation can go grab some information for you. Autonomous is when you are truly delegating the agent, or in this case LLM, to apply the judgment, to make a decision, and sometimes even take an action. Right? So this is where when you think about what's the big deal about AI or LLM in general, it's taking us as a world of systems, it's taking us from systems that were built on very prescriptive rules that limited us on highly structured and key value pair kind of knowledge. It's taking us from that world to a world where we can have a system of intelligence that can work with very unstructured information, various degree of information. Think of it large files, PDFs, just any content on the internet. It can take all of that and it can process and then further make some decisions off of it. Right? So Andrew was talking about whatever CLI you're using for coding. These agents are based on your instructions. They're able to collect all of the libraries, make decision on what's the right code to write based on the instructions, and then actually go update the files. So it's using the intelligence to infer the need, interpret the code, interpret the instructions, then go write the code, that's the action taking, and in some cases even deploy it, right? So this is where we're moving from a world of automation to autonomous agents, where these agents can apply judgment and can also make decisions and can also ultimately take actions.
Excellent segue. The next question really is, what are the biggest misconceptions you run into? And this slide is from Swati. We don't anticipate anyone reading it all, but I'll hit the big ones here. These are the building blocks, the LLMs they're talking about, memory, planning, reasoning, and action taking. Key part, tools and functions, retrieval, augmentation, that's the RAG, and then autonomy, which is, we're going to get into that pretty deep. And then just having another one here, this is talking about all the things that agents can do, task completion, single chain of thought agent, a goal-seeking agent, tool using, RAG and memory-based, and multi-collaborative. So really, I go to this, I go, wow, I can do everything. And the biggest misconception I have is when I heard the next billionaire is going to be 14 years old working with agents out of their basement. How do we get there? What's the misconception? What do I need to avoid thinking?
Thinking in terms of, there's so many misconceptions.
That everything an agent can do. I can be the billionaire in the basement.
There's so many
I think
answers in my head.
people skip over the most important part, and that is the data behind this whole thing. If the data's not structured, the data's not right, it doesn't work. So it's a data problem. You're just mapping fields, rows and columns. And you peel it all back.
Yeah, data is important, especially if you're building agents, for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, going back to the example that you were giving, right? To me, that's not even an agent building problem. To me,
Which one was it?
like he was a 14-year-old probably putting something in his basement and becoming the next billionaire, right? I read that article too. That's not even agent development. I think really the future belongs to the one who has a good idea, but is great at executing it through the AI or agentic solutions that are now available to them that commoditizes coding, technical landscape. And I know we have had this conversation internally, and we always tell Andrew we don't want to hurt your feelings because you're a developer, but it's really not about that necessarily. It's about having an idea and using the tools that are out there, whether it's Cursor. I think Codex you mentioned, Windsurf. I know you like Gemini, CLI, Carlos. Like we all have our favorites. I love Lovable. But it's really about having an idea and most importantly, using the tools that are out there to make it, to bring your idea to life. And that is not agent development. That's just purely using coding agents to code on your behalf. Like having a team of developers around you to go build this for you. So I think that's where a lot of us get too wrapped up into technology and what tools to use, whether or not this is the right tool or that's the right tool or what's the agent building versus anything else. I think we really have to come back to understand the full spectrum of tools that are out there. And then you have to go after what is it that you're trying to solve for and then start there. Are you trying to build for an idea? Are you trying to become an agent expert and consult around that? Are you trying to take your company towards an agentic transition, which is a different journey altogether? But it's really first and foremost grounding yourself in some concepts in the full spectrum of the landscape, and then from there identifying, okay, this is my starting point. I think that's the point that most people are missing right now.
Can I just take it a little deeper than that? I've been in a lot of those meetings where they have great ideas and they have the tool set. And I'm like, okay, what's the data? Like, what is it doing? What triggers it? What's the end result? Because that's hard. It's hard for people to understand that it's data. And that it's the background of everything. It's the gas. You can have all the cursors and all that, but that's my experience. Then I go back and it seems so simple and so obvious. But I'm always like, okay, where's the data? It's perfect if it's in one place, but a lot of times there's a little data over here, a little data over there, a little data there. Oh, and those fields are different over here, and then it doesn't, the agents get lost because the data's not there. And that's why these things fail.
Right, and that's very relevant if you're building virtual agents, because you need all of that context
Yeah.
to ground your agent in the relevant knowledge, in the relevant context to solve for your specific problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me personally, I think the biggest misconception is that AI agents will replace all human workers, because not all, but probably some. I don't know if you want to talk about this specific case, because I can talk
That was
about.
not on the agenda.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So.
Because people looking for jobs are unhappy about that part of the discussion.
Hopefully they will not fall into those one way. So, and this is true, especially, I don't know, this is a big question mark for me as a developer, because again, those AI coding agents, they are good enough, but they will become even better. Developers who don't realize this, I think they will be screwed, so they have to change their mindset. Right now, it's not as common. For instance, I went to San Francisco a couple of times during the summer, so they are all buzzing about this. And so conferences, meetups, all about the AI coding agents. Here, it doesn't feel like that. Absolutely here and there, some talk about this, others not. So that's why I go there. I'm telling you, no one. You're not employable if you're in the
You're not employable.
Yeah, you're not employable as a developer if you're not using the agent. That's how it feels when you're there. I don't know.
They encourage it.
Yes, they do.
But I think it's not, that is not only limited to just developers. I feel that every professional needs to become that AI first professional where you lead with AI as an extra intelligence that you have not even in your back pocket, but actually as your side partner all the time, so that you can spend less time in doing the grunt work and spend more time in really bringing out your strategic muscle. Right? So I think that's a shift that every professional can stand to make, including developers, where they're not obsessing about coding itself because an agent can do that for them. It's about thinking about the right design for the system. And yes, in theory, agents can come and do that, but I still fundamentally think human intelligence and creativity is where we'll excel and still continue to stand out in terms of our superpower, independent of machines. I think this is where every profession has to start thinking about how do you leverage these systems, not just to replace you, but the more you use it, the more you start to ask, okay, what is the white space here that I am filling that this machine can never fill? Right? So becoming that or having that level of perspective and clarity on where you excel with these systems so that you can all coexist in the most
this also is tagged right on that, and that has to do with client reality check. So what are your clients asking you for? Are you getting like outrageous requests, or are they reasonable? I see Tracy's not
I get some crazy ones, but it's because people don't know what's possible and what's realistic, right? I talked to an interim executive the other day. He said, I just uploaded all my frameworks since 1989 up into my ChatGPT. I created this thing, and it's all about him, right? And Google wants to buy it. And, but a realistic is going and getting funding and all that. It's a tool to take requirements, and then it disperses out. And of course, it's got 82 layers of things and all that. And he showed it to me. And there's investors there too. This is the crazy part. People are like, yeah. And you look at that from an architect standpoint, you're like, it's never going to solve the problem you think it's going to solve. 42 layers of anything is too much. So I think it's the too big thing. I think, and I know I keep saying it, maybe data should be my middle name. But if you don't have the data, it doesn't matter. Start with a small thing, a small data set, and you trust the data, prototype it out, then build onto it, and then add the complexity. But people are trying to do this whole big thing, clean all the data, and it never works that way. And get all the teams to agree that's the way the data field should be, and that's the field type. That never happens. So it's just, you got to start small, very small.
Any other crazy requests? What's your favorite crazy request?
Actually, I have not had a crazy request. In general, I feel like if anything in my conversations, people are still trying to make sense of where AI fits. Maybe the crazy ask may start with, oh, we can just turn everything into an AI solution, right? And then you have to help tease out, okay, what is really an AI problem versus what's a regular automation problem, right? So that's a good conversation to have to help separate the two things, because it's not like automation is going away. We're still writing code. At the end of the day, it's just agents are writing codes. So it's not so much crazy, it's more about educating the people who are not there yet on really what is automation versus autonomous and where AI fits and where it doesn't. But I think it's really after that, it's helping teams and leaders vet what is the right starting point, and to Tracy's point, start small, right? Or start with an area where you demonstrate the more readiness. And absolutely at that point, your context, which could be in the form of your knowledge or in the form of actual data, that may be subjected to the use case you're trying to solve, but that's where your context will be very important. So it's really more teasing out. To me, I equate this to going back to like my digital transformation experience. It's always identifying the objectives and then what is the right problem to go after first, and then having a roadmap to what the end state will look like, but having an understanding of what's the right starting point so you can drive the most success, outcomes, and impact.
Just a real quick check. How many of you here have ever built an agent? About half.
A lot.
Yeah, okay, so that's good context. We're all still feeling our way around in this thing. So who do you trust, right? How do you build trust? How do you even know which agents are going to run amok or run properly, right? There's so many new software out. I know that Airia is great. I don't know about anything else at this point. So how do you build that trust? How do you know which things to trust? And in particular, automation. I know autonomous agents. I just see them running amok and stealing my credit card and going off to Asia or something. I don't know. Tell me, how do I build trust?
Inside the agent?
Just in the agent world, agent building.
It would go to the system instructions, what you tell it to do, the trigger points, the data. It's not going to get your credit card if it doesn't have an access to get credit card.
Right, I'd have to give it, but then I just want to make sure that it's not doing something outside.
Yeah. That goes into the security part of it, and that's going to be a complicated thing that we still try to figure out.
Are there any autonomous systems out there now?
I think
I
the
mean,
military
Lovable?
has some.
Yeah?
Lovable is an autonomous
Lovable's
system.
completely autonomous?
What do you mean when you say that?
Hey,
What do you
turn it on, walk away. You don't have to ever check in again.
Lovable, you get an idea.
Check in. Yeah, but what I'm saying is it has given you Again, there's various degrees of how autonomous of a system you're building. When I look at something like Lovable or even a Perplexity, I do believe that they've built a much higher degree of autonomous systems or autonomous agents that will go do the whole end-to-end development for you, or the end-to-end research and synthesis and summary for you, and then you're in the loop to see the output, to validate the output, or to do something with it. A less autonomous version of that could be where you have, let's say, an agent that goes or that analyzes, let's say, a contract that comes in, right? It analyzes the contract and scans for any risks in a contract. And then from there, it just hands it over to the human to review and then apply the judgment. Like, these are my flags, but now it's all up for the human to scan the things that the agent has red marked and then make a decision with it. That's an example of a slightly less autonomous agent versus a more autonomous agent such as Lovables or Cursors.
I'm not even thinking software. I'm thinking my refrigerator is going to continue to buy groceries until my credit card is expired.
Yeah, that's autonomous. Like, it's
Right.
That's the next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not happening yet, I guess.
No, there's always some kind of human in the loop.
Okay,
Yeah.
humans in the loop is good.
Human in the loop is, it just depends on how far it's taking your workflow into judgment and decision making. But to come back to your question and to build on what you're saying, there are some good practices, right, before you deploy your agents to production. First of all, you have to run some degrees of evaluations, right? And there are good evaluation frameworks out there. I was just having a conversation with you about this, right? There are good evaluation tools out there as well as frameworks out there. And also, what are the different dimensions that you're evaluating? So one, of course, is accuracy, right? But the other is, depending on the scope of the agent, you might look for other qualifying criteria such as, is there bias in this agent, right? Is it fair? Is it harmful or harmless, I should say, right? So there is a lot of different dimensions that are there in frameworks, eval frameworks, that will guide you on the things that you want to assess and evaluate your agent on. And then based on what is the risk of each of these dimensions, you run your evaluations and you see what are, on an average, how many times is it meeting each of these dimensions, and decide whether or not this is a good enough benchmark to go to production, right? Am I going to go to production with 100% accuracy or 80% accuracy? That might depend on the agent you're building and what's the risk of that. So there are
Like if
frameworks.
it's a drone with a bomb, I want to be
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly. You won't put it on a nuclear bomb, right? But there are good frameworks out there to apply when you're truly starting to put agents in production. And then the intent, of course, I think I mentioned, right? I'm a product manager by heart, right? So I'm always looking at these things and to say how do you incrementally get to what best looks like, even though there is no end goal ever. So there are frameworks. I would say if you've not looked into it, definitely look into it. There are also tools that will help you run effective evaluations at a modular level, right? So not just at an entire agent level, but to see what each module of the agent is doing, so you can see where your vulnerabilities are and if you need to tune it further. And I'm not sure if your system offers that. I haven't evaluated, but there you go. We already have a tool represented with us today that can do that. There are other tools, also Arise, that's pretty good at that, and it's also endorsed by Andrew Ng from Deep Learning and Google DeepMind, so something to look into. The last thing I want to say is, when you are building these agents, if you don't have some kind of a mechanism to observe what these agents are doing in production, collect that telemetry data to see what happened, both in terms of the path it took, the decisions it took, and all those kinds of things, but also its latency, cost, and all of those, then you're not doing yourself a favor, right? You're doing yourself a disservice. So these are some of the best practices to look for when you're truly looking to build and deploy production-grade agents at minimum.
Andrew, anything to add as far as a hard lesson learned about trust?
When it comes to AI automation, so my experience is mostly with small businesses, opposed to what our ladies with enterprises. So it's not that important to, we're not playing with atomic bombs with small businesses. right? So it's way simpler. But still, when it comes to AI automation, I wouldn't even say AI agents, but just AI automation. I would never trust it by default. I would just put some guardrails in all times, whenever, even if it's just about a message on LinkedIn. I don't want to ruin my reputation when it said something crazy, right? But I think, and again, Swati mentioned those frameworks and best practices, and that's what probably everyone should think about. But when I think in a simple way about it, then for me it's just an LLM call, and always you have a verifier. So you never trust what it comes back with. So you need to put a verifier on top of it. It might be another LLM or some rule-based thing, but you never push it to end user or whatever without verification. And it has to be programmed into your AI automation, whatever. And also when it comes to human in the loop, of course, until you trust it, you do what you don't trust it, right? So you need to observe every single outcome that LLM produces, and then you reduce frequency of observation. Because every single one, then every 10th, every 100th, and so forth. And then finally, you trust it, but still, if you want to have a human in the loop, maybe at least once, I don't know, 1,000 times or whatever, just to make sure that everything is fine. But without that verifier, I wouldn't trust LLM verifier in 100% time. So that's how I would.
It's funny because you can ask 5 LLMs the same exact question and get 5 different answers at this point still. So I think the point's very well taken. Keep humans in the loop and test. Any questions so far? Chris? Kevin? No? All right, so we're gonna switch gears slightly here to talk about your business as an agent builder. I'm curious, how do you go about getting clients? What's your biggest challenge right now in making a living as a builder?
So I have two business lines of business, right? One business line when it comes to AI coding, I'm more of a user of an agent. Because I use AI coding agents. And on the other side, as I said, I have more experience with working with small businesses, so it has its own specifics. So the question is how we...
What are you doing to keep the lights on? And how are you going about getting it? And maybe what's the biggest challenge, business challenge you've had in staying as a builder? It's not easy, I can imagine.
You can think of things like a glass is half full of half empty. So I'm more on the positive side. To me, the word challenge doesn't sound right. To me, it's more like opportunity. So when you are in business, you're always looking for opportunities, and whatever change is happening on the market, you try to take it as an opportunity. So to me, right now, there are huge opportunities. So it's a brilliant time for entrepreneurs right now. Probably it's not as good for when you play a role of employee, but when you play a role of entrepreneur, so you can build, you can participate in building technology. You can use the technology to build service business. You can educate people. So there are tons of opportunities. So I would say I'm very excited, and I wouldn't take it as a challenge. I would take it as an opportunity, specifically for me. Again, as I said, I feel like it's going to be very challenging for many developers to realize, and to adjust their career. And right now, I'm considering, for instance, helping developers to do that. So professional developers who always have been, let's say, coding, and now they need to change their mindset completely, and now coding is going away, and what am I supposed to do? So for me, that's a huge challenge, and not challenge, a huge challenge for them, but a huge opportunity for someone who wants to help them get over it. For businesses, for small businesses, again, my experience comes from that. But I won't tell you. So a friend of mine came over to me, and we had a conversation with him. He's a solo entrepreneur. And he said, he started talking about AI automation. Said, hey, I do that. So tell me more. And he already hired a freelance developer to do some AI automation. Then when I started talking to him, I quickly realized that he is not ready for AI. But this hype around AI agents and all that, and it feels like AI agents will solve all business problems. Yeah. I hope so. I don't know, but right now technology is not there yet. So to me, again, that's another thing. I'm sort of educate these small businesses. They feel like they want something. They are looking for a solution. So just different solutions. So for me, it's more about opportunities than challenges.
The Chinese word for crisis is the same word they have for opportunity. It's the same. So that always comes. Other thoughts on building your business, and then also walking the walk. Are you using agents in your own business like you would recommend for your clients? Tell me how that's going.
So I wanted to go back to so how do you have your track for getting leads as a business owner? And it's, I think for the entrepreneurs that are out here, or everyone's got a little entrepreneur inside them, I think we want to go after people and go find, I think I know what you need, so I'm going to tell you what you need, and then I'm going to solve it for you. And I think there's a shift while this whole AI world is being understood more and more every day, and we're getting the same language and the same literacy, and we're all using the same words, that people's eyes are going to be open and they're going to come to you. That's my life lesson.
Right after the laser.
What's that? Right, yeah. But the point is remain a generalist, and we were talking about this earlier. I think you have to know a little bit about a lot. It's not just about HTML web. It's not just about Python. It's not just about data. It's about the whole friggin' thing. And you have to know that thing and then what makes it work. You have to know how the data comes in. You have to know what triggers it. You have to know how to prevent bias. Controlling the data is how you prevent bias, and giving it data in the terms of words for a instruction set, data in terms of a knowledge base. So that's how you train it. But my point is, so AI operations is not super well known. It's known in my world because I talk about it, but the rest of the world. So for me, that's what I've put up on my stand, AI operations. It works, but I know it's coming. Like I know it's all going to be, because it's all about operations, right? So things like that. Think about what's coming. Don't call yourself just a developer. Don't call yourself just a market operations person, which I was, and now AI ops. So just be smart about that. I do feel like the world, it will shift to being a consumer of independent consultants and agencies and things like that. This whole world of W-2s is going to go away, in my opinion. So if you still need to make money, you need to set yourself up to.
We have an interesting story here if you want to share.
Of mine?
Yeah.
I don't have a story to tell, but no, I think, but I'll add a perspective and then
Okay.
to share. So I think when I think about, I think I'll answer the question a little differently. Because I'm in product management, one of the things I do is I'm just trained mentally to look at patterns in things, right? That's just how my brain works. So where my head has been is to see where the pattern is in terms of market readiness of all of this. So when I compare where we were last year, I'm not talking large tech enterprises. Everyone's been scrambling to see how to respond to market, to have something relevant so that they can stay relevant. But I'm talking most other companies last year were excited but still skeptical of what this whole thing is. Is this a new shiny object? Is it going to stay or not? There was a lot of that mindset last year. When I compare that to where we are this year, I think that skepticism is gone. Everybody understands that this is a legit thing. It's here to stay. And everybody's thinking about what it means and how to harness this effectively. And those who are not thinking about it strategically are probably making some wrong decisions. There's data to show that at this point. And those who are bringing the right partners, they are hopefully on the right track. Where I see things going next year is that I feel that next year is when we are going to see, by mid to late of next year is when we're actually going to see a lot of things in execution. A lot of companies actually committing to the investments, actually building to agents. Maybe the journey will be different for mid-sized companies versus smaller companies. But so less is a challenge, but I think just market readiness and adoption-wise, from a B2B offering as a consultant, we're probably trying to see a lot of traction in the AI consulting space next year. So that's generally how I look at it. Having said that, I don't think that humans are going to be replaced anytime soon. In fact, the more I use AI, and yes, I do walk the walk, anything I do, I begin with AI as my tool. more I'm realizing where I bring, like what specialty am I bringing to this situation. When I even put it in context of a product manager role, I don't think it's going away. If anything, it's going to become a lot more relevant. And that goes for many other jobs because it's the unique perspective and intuition that you can bring that will become your USP, a company's USP, that nobody else will have. So I do think that human excellence is here to stay. It's not going to be replaced. And to add some more context to what Mark probed me for, I recently actually made a pivot back into a full-time job and have started working in a product management role with Orchestration.
So back to W2.
Back to W2.
And right now, the world is such a disarray. And sometimes you got to tumble things up into the air to just see where they land. We call that analysis. Figuring out where all the parts go again. So I want to get a little bit, and we're back into the technology side here, talk about your platform preferences. We'll just go down the line again. Tell us what your platform preferences are down there, Andrew.
Yeah, two different layers, right? So AI coding. When it comes to AI coding, so my personal preference is Windsurf, and when it comes to prototyping, it's easier, Replit, and Lovable. To me, they're all the same. So this week, Google comes up with something, next week, AI comes up with something, then Tracye, then vice versa. So it doesn't matter what much. Cursor AI is a good tool, but my personal preference is Windsurf. Doesn't change it, right? When it comes to AI coding, when it comes to specifically the automation, I break with many problems. But when it comes to helping specific businesses, I would put it this way. Sometimes it's enough for, at least for small businesses, just to show them how to use ChatGPT. It's funny, but when you show them how you can upload files and talk to those files, or combine, upload this file, convert this into this file, so just show simple things, it gives them a boost. Complexity and basic tools. So then a CRM system that they say that they use, sometimes they don't know the automations that they have. So you can connect Zapier to CRM system, and then they start sending emails and wow, I didn't know about that. So when I'm talking about low-level things, of course, LangChain, and I use a lot of the AI, for instance. But I want to say that there are a lot of out-of-the-box things, like for instance, Oxon or Relevance AI, things like this. I'm a developer, I can afford like coding, but when it comes to real people or real businesses, so sometimes it's just easier to go and sign up for those tools. So my preference is always just use out of the box instead of just custom stuff. Especially for small businesses, it's really important because they don't have scale that enterprise can afford it. So it's like a lot of money just for automation and then it's justified. For small businesses, sometimes it's not justified to build anything custom. Just go for out of the box. That's how I think about it.
Tracy?
For myself, my role is very chaotic. I've got a little bit of everything, I feel like. I've got Claude, the ChatGPT, Perplexity. I use TypingMind to type all that in. I love Zapier. I started using that a long time ago before anybody knew if it was Zapier or Zapier. I think it was the CEO actually who was giving me support. This is a long time ago, but I still love that platform. They've evolved. There's N8N to build the agents. Right now, I'm actually talking about how to stay informed. Give me a certification course and I will do it. I really do love it. I've always been that way. And I think that's, not everyone's put to go that way, but I am. I'm almost addicted to it. But I'm getting certified on Azure Foundry now, and that's just opened my world. Plus, it gives me an opportunity to get the tools for free. Otherwise, I've got to wait for clients to have these big, cool, expensive things. Then you go in and, yes, I can build that for you, Mr. Cloud, on this platform. So at the end of the day, it should not matter where you build it because the concepts are the same. But it does cost to do all this. It's $20 for ChatGPT. I probably spend $500 a month just on tools. I love Airtable. I will tell you, Airtable and Gamma. You think, oh, like content in there, they're just creating little images. Check out Gamma. That can put your thoughts into images real quick. Have you used it yet?
No, but you're not paying 200 for ChatGPT?
No. Are you?
Me not, but I have a friend who does.
I'm gonna know from them what they're all.
Well, we're going to get there after
Well, I think most of the tools have been named. I'll just add more.
So what's your favorite?
I would say, like right now, I'm spending a lot of time in Notebook LM. I was just sharing with someone. It's been one of my favorite tools, but right now, just because I'm going through with my full-time role, going through onboarding, and I'm just finding myself in Notebook LM every 2 hours, loading all my content and then summarizing all the information, and it's really condensed my learning process immensely. For a company this large, for systems this complex, and for the immense amount of information that's being thrown my way, it's made my life
You like the
so much
podcast? You
easier.
listen in the commute?
Everything, right? Just the ability to organize knowledge in a manner that I process and then play it back to me, it's been immensely helpful. So that's really more from a usage standpoint. But from a building standpoint, I've played with all the tools that have been mentioned, but I always say it's less about the tool, it's more about the problem you're solving. So I picked my lane. If I'm trying to prototype something truly, then I will use Lovable. I pay for it, so I've read it, so I don't want to invest in any other tool at that point. It does a pretty fine job for me. This is all outside of work, by the way. This is a different stack at work that is separate. But then also I love Mind Studio, which is a good agent building tool, and it has built-in evaluation capabilities, it has built-in debugging and observability capabilities, and it really scales well for smaller companies because you can actually it's a very visual agent building tool, like literally building a flowchart, has inbuilt byte coding for adding custom functions and logic to it. It also has an agent to build an agent. So it's really easy for anyone who is not looking to learn how to build agents.
So you can have an agent build your agent.
Yes, you just go in
Like
and
an
you
agent to
type,
build
yes.
that.
Now, they just added it 2 months ago, so I've been using it for 6 to 8 months. I still like to start from the scratch, but I feel if anybody who's coming from a non-technical background especially, or again, I don't think writing code is a specialty anymore, where you're going to excel in life. So why spend that time? It's a vanity metric to look at if you're saying, I can custom code agents and things like that. So I think Mind Studio is a really good tool for anyone to start building their agents, and especially if you're building it for smaller businesses, you can walk your customers through all of the flow, and it's easy to understand and integrate. She and I will talk about NN at times too, so we'll build agents there as well. I would say these are the 2 tools primarily for prototyping, Lovable, and Mind Studio for agents. It's typically my first of my work at.
Is this kind of like before Windows they had, you had to speak the language, basic and all that? Or is it like some people just are gravitating towards more complex software, and other people need it really simple, like a Make? I think of N8N as like a PC, or and I think of Make as being like the Apple. It's just in my mind. Is that hold true anywhere?
N8N has a community that grow, or 20-year-olds that were YouTubers that turned to, coding or these agentic workflows. So that's that community.
It's also more robust in terms of it has what I can't remember the numbers yet. It has like hundreds of connectors built into it, right? Plus it's open source, so you can actually take the code of the agent and host it on your own, right? So yes, there is a place for it, because then you don't have to pay for running it if you're hosting it on your own cloud, especially if you're paying for, I know Sri does that a lot for a lot of his agents. So I think it does have a place for it, not just because there are people who gravitate towards it, but because it does make sense when you're starting to do things at scale.
How about orchestrating all these different agents? I know that's what Airia does in particular. By the way, for those of you who want, you can get a free trial over there. I think is it called a free trial?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, Airia.com/register. AIRIA.com/register. Get a free trial. Try their agent builders and such.
So orchestration, I know this question comes up in our community all the time too. Recently we had a discussion. Of course, if you have full IDEs, you can look into something like LangGraph. I have not used it personally, but it is pretty popular for large-scale orchestration. Again, I don't know enough about your tool, but LangGraph does that. AI is another one that people talk about for orchestration. So those are the two that comes to mind. I don't know if you've seen it.
Is it orchestrating a whole bunch of the smaller, easy things?
That's Zapier's weakness, actually. They're not very good at that.
Ah.
Other platforms are much better. I would imagine that they're better. Zapier, mainly as you come out of one workflow, you got to go and do other, versus seeing it all. So it's just limiting the complexity. Because when you're orchestrating, it gets very complex. A lot of dependency. So it's
And how about the idea of data storage? That's one of the things about using these GPTs or various, I think it was the artifacts or gems or whatever you want to call it, each one, right?
Yeah.
So the data that's used, where does that live in an agent world?
it's how you set up the data, the warehouse.
That's
Okay.
The LLM, that's how you set up your own LLM.
Right, so you would have,
Custom context data would be part of what people normally know as RAG, right? So as part of setting up your agent, one of the tool and function you will equip it with is the ability to tap into that custom data, whether through actually going and pulling information from your database and then vectorizing it, or actually tapping into your RAG for knowledge.
but does it create data itself, and where does that go?
It is a generating system.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Yes, yeah. That's
Well, I
where
can see that just blowing up.
that's where memory comes in.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, knowledge graphs, I dipped in my toe into that the past year. I don't know if y'all are familiar with knowledge graphs, but that is the future as well. And it's how they call them triples. And it's how this pen relates to, the ink is black, and I use it to write with my right hand. Let's say those are the three things. So it knows the color, how it's used, and things like that. Everything will have a triple relationship. Eventually, all of it's connected. And the knowledge graph gives the ability to, like a RAG retrieval, it would be like, okay, what's the policy, the HR policy for blah, blah, blah. And it'll go and look at it and it'll come back with an answer. A knowledge graph, you can look at it and say, for all of these RFPs that we did not respond to or did respond to, what was the success basis, say we're in construction, with this HVAC system in this part of the world using this crew. And it can go and do all of that. And that's where the magic comes in. And that's how you keep these things from not hallucinating. So you're going to hear more and more about knowledge graphs and these sort of things and how to set them up. And you've got RAG, then you've got vector, and then you've got knowledge graphs. And knowledge graphs are where it's going.
But in terms of the data that it generates during runtime, there is the observability side of data, which is, this is why you need to have a mechanism to track all the steps and the inputs and outputs through your workflows. That's the observability data, or you can call it debugging data. That's the runtime data. The output data is where memory comes in. So if you're building your agents using systems that provisions for some kind of a session memory, user memory, long-term memory storage, that's what you want to be looking for.
Anything to add here?
So again, from an engineering standpoint, just data can be stored anywhere where we have data storage, right? So it can be database, it can be files, cloud, local. It all depends on how we design it. Some data stores in your inbox when you send an email generated by it, right? So it's
Right.
it's
Yeah.
there. So
It runs out somewhere.
Yeah, it puts it somewhere, correct. But that's also going to be captured in the observability data there.
You guys touched on the platform, what I call the platform wars. It's accelerating. Every day there's a new thing added to all of them, right? Today was Claude 4.5 or whatever came out, different coding. But more and more I'm seeing agents built into the newer LLMs. How is that affecting the agent builder world?
It just makes it better.
Yeah.
As the LLMs get better, it just makes it easier. I remember when MCP came, it's not the beginning of this year or the previous year. That was a big whole thing, just to touch on how these LLMs are.
Does it make you want to move off of your favorite platforms to go?
No. If I could get onto one platform, say Google, if Google could do all my things that I need to be done, including like that gamma thing I was talking about, just the output of the content, like the proposal or the PRD or whatever you're doing, Gamma can do it dynamically too. Like it can change as data changes, it changes. You need to be sharing that same document with a client, so long as they have that link. As the data's changing, they can check it anytime. So it's just really cool stuff. But you've got to connect it to data. And the data could be the instructions or the prompting. Prompt changing is a big thing too, to keep these elements. So there's all these elements to it. But I don't think, to answer your question, in my mind, I would love not to have, while I love tinkering and it gives me something to take my mind off of, to go learn something, if I could slow that part down and just focus on one platform, I would probably get a lot more done. Because the switching between technologies, and if you didn't have to do that, you'd probably save yourself a lot of mental energy.
Speaking of tinkering, Andrew Enterprise Group, or you're involved with a group of AI tinkerers.
So me personally, I think everyone knows, everyone's just benefit from that technology being enhanced and progress, right? So as long as you are not a startup playing against big guys, so you're fine. So me personally, I think we are too slow in enhancing our technologies. I'm waiting for this bright future when, I'm serious about that. I'm waiting for the bright future when we can talk to computers and build software for us, and I don't need to code, I don't need to write a lot. So we're not there, and I'm really frustrated about that. So we're not too fast, but we're too slow. That's to my taste.
So you're ready for Hal? Are you ready for Hal? Oh, of course. I know. Sorry, being provocative here. So we only have one more question on my end, and then I want to open it up to the audience. And that is words of wisdom. What would you give as advice to everyone here about going into agent building as a side gig, a profession, whatever it might be, how to help others get into agents?
I can go first. I think we'll cover the full spectrum between the three of us. But like I've said, I think it's really starting with embracing AI and building that AI first mindset. And if you truly want to embark on the building journey, then start with some tool. Don't get lost in, hey, this is the cool tool, or this is the more advanced tool, or this is what the public is talking about. See what just naturally works for you, right? Don't get lost in the tools war, because that's not where your unique selling point is going to be. It's all about your ability to execute on a good idea. Right? So just embrace AI, develop the AI first mindset, and if you're truly looking to build, then go build something with a tool that makes sense to you.
I definitely have an advice to developers and new developers, right? Switch to AI coding as up. Just come home and switch to AI coding and just become an AI coder right away. As for general audience, I think don't get crazy about technology announcements. So yes, we're living in this real time, like a transition time, and a lot of things are changing. Just be mindful about your career. Just embrace the fact that your career will change because of AI, and just try to build a strategy. Don't jump from one thing to another. Just try to avoid the noise. Just try to build a strategy. Though maybe it's not easy to build a strategy because a lot of jobs will be changing and you don't know how they will be changing. So this is for developers. For developers, it's more, to me, it's more clear what's going to happen. Just for maybe other jobs, it's not that clear. I don't know why it is, maybe because I'm just in the development space, so I know what's going on. But for developers, definitely just switching to the CI tools, and they are really good. They will, as I said, they will become even better. So for monitors, for, I don't know, accountants, for corporations, for whatever. I don't know what is going to change there, but just try to embrace this change. Just take it as it is. Your job will change. That's for fact. That's for fact. Just start with ChatGPT, with Perplexity, with some basic stuff, and try to avoid it. That's my crazy.
Wow, I don't know where to begin, but I would think, as I talk to people in my world, and it's hard, right? Because we think everyone knows what we're talking about, but so many people don't, right? My daughter actually did not have ChatGPT. And I was like, ChatGPT? Oh, not the paper. So and a lot of people don't. No, the $20, it's 20. And then there's $200. But the $20 one, and And I think that is just such an easy step. Understand what it is and when you and use all those little tools in there. And all test them all and understand it from that standpoint. And then get on a platform like a Zapier or an Airia and just start small. Because for those that have not done this before, it will all make sense once you do that. You'll see that how the data works into it and how the interface and how you can prototype it in Bolt, or I use Bolt. I used to use Bubble, but Bolt, I prototype a lot. I probably run 4 to 5 prototypes a week, and I spin them up and I have to test them. But all of those prototypes are generated from a PRD that I make that ingests, and then it talks to Bolt and makes whatever it wants and pulls out the database and all that. And it likes Subbase on the back end. I like Airtable, but anyway, and I know I keep going back to that, but just go through a workflow that you want to solve for. It could be anything. It could be applying for a job. It could be writing a cover letter, a custom cover letter.
Is there a difference in that, like in a GPT? Because they have those, are those agents?
The custom GPT.
Yeah, custom GPT.
Kind of an agent. It's like a level 1 agent.
Okay, level 1 agent.
Yeah. But so you could do all this, and I have a client who's going to do all this with Claude, ChatGPT. I'm like, sure, you can. But it's going to be over here doing this, going back and forth. And then the conversation's 18 miles long. And how do you go back up to the top to find that thing that you said? And then go to Claude and have the same thing. So it's not as efficient, and it's not going to be the same each time. There's no process in that. You got an output, but you did not put an automation or a process that can be repeated.
It's hard to put humans in that loop. I would imagine.
You could, it works fine for it also, in addition to what Tracye said, right? It works fine if you're just trying to build something for yourself. So then you can get more context-driven output from ChatGPT. But if you're trying to use that as a team, then it's not taking the collective input of the team and applying it to this custom GPT so that it can continue to learn and improve over time. Because all of the interactions with the custom GPT, even if you share it with your team, is going to be on an individual session,
Right.
not on the agent's global memory. So again, it's not a solve for a team-driven agent if you're trying to do it for a company or a team. But it's fine, if you want to build an agent to write a custom resume, a custom cover letter for your purposes, it's fine. Yeah, you can definitely start with that level 1 agent as a custom agent in ChatGPT, but not if you're trying to build a consulting company around it.
Right. And monetizing agents, is that a thing? Like an app?
I wanted to do it. You probably have it on it.
Like an app
Where
to
do they sell
monetize
these
agents.
things?
Yeah.
It's not harder than it sounds.
Right. The money's in the
Go to
work,
market,
but not
yeah.
necessarily the output.
Right. What do you charge after it's built?
It's interesting, none of you said I specialize in like home repair businesses or plumbers or marketing or HR or something. It's all general. So is that true?
In terms of building agents.
In terms of your work, your focus, is it?
Yeah, it's not vertical by a specific
You're not doing it.
workflow, right? It's really more about
Situation.
business process.
I've got a client now, I'm building his second brain. He's a diplomat and he's a speaker and he's an investor. He does all these things, so we had to go build a knowledge graph of his whole world. And it literally, he talks into something and it schedules flights, it does everything. It gives him a summary of the car ride to the event. That was immense, but it was for one person. So these things can get, and who would not love that? Stop thinking about how I can monetize that, because who would not love that? Have your whole world in this one knowledge base, and you just talk to it.
Okay, I'll open up there. I'm right, oh, yes.
Question. I know you guys are in the AI space, but how would you recommend something like me stay tapped in like the newest advancements within AI?
Connect to a community. You have access to this community, right? And then she and I also run a community every other Saturday, and our goal is to, and it's not just the two of us, like Carlos will bring a lot of perspectives. So community, it's a community, right? So community helps of all, can know everything that's going on in the AI space. It's evolving so rapidly.
Yeah.
Plus, we all also tend to lean on different things naturally. So it's a good way to have a broader perspective on what's happening on a regular basis and really sift the noise and know what's real versus what's hype.
And I think Anthropic, OpenAI, I think Anthropic may do a better job, but just stay on their courses. Just they'll be touching everything out anyway, so just stay on and reading and learning through them. Anthropic has Academy, I think, right?
Yeah, all the LLMs
All
have
of these.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And YouTube is a great resource as well. If you have a couple of people you like their style, maybe, because it's a real, everyone has different learning styles, and some of them I just get irritated listening to, and some of them I'm like, hey, I like
Yeah, I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
That works for learning. There are a lot of resources out there for learning. Yeah, but the other part is just how do you keep up with what was released today?
Yeah.
And how does it matter? What's Codex? What is Claude 4.5? And Claude just released all of this native files processing now.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you one more tip. I just discovered this one. Google AI Labs will give you access to all their stuff for free, like Banana. If you run out of credits, AI Labs. You can do it all day long for free. Google AI Labs.
Google, man, they're doing some
They're
smart
doing-
They have all the upcoming latest cutting edge
Yeah.
stuff there. It's all free.
Yeah.
So I just did that as a clue.
Yeah, TLDR is a great newsletter if you're looking.
Yeah,
for
that's a good
AI
one.
That's
stuff.
another one, yes.
They have an AI TLDR, like TLDR. That's a great newsletter.
Every day AI is great. Not even
That's
all of
one,
us.
yeah, I can go hold this if you guys want.
Yeah.
No, I don't, it's not like you just said everyday AI.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy's good.
Is it every in cursive?
Huh? Every, yeah, it depends on your style, your learning
Yeah,
style,
that's your learning
reading,
style.
video,
I
whatever.
want to say that once you start subscribing to people,
Yeah.
it's
It's
sometimes it becomes it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
It
It's
becomes
overwhelming.
toxic and
You have to-
Yeah.
so if you, I know that it feels like every single day there's something new. But I would recommend that you could just go and check news once, 2 times a year. New Year and then sometime in the summer.
No, we were just talking, like, you leave for a vacation for 2 days also nowadays. Like, oh my god, everything changed, right? It's so rapidly shifting. So, yes, I think newsletters and all are great, but I still think that joining communities and showing up for these events every other week or whatever works for you helps condense it down for you,
Yeah.
right? You can ask questions, you can brainstorm, like this whole Claude with native files. You're like,
Yeah.
and I played with it, so I can give you more
Yeah,
context,
good.
right? And then somebody else might have played with Cortex, and I can ask questions about that. So I think it's a much better way to stay abreast and keep yourself on that accelerated path.
And within the AI Collective, just speaking about that, we have at least one social every month and one educational program. Rashmi, you want to come in and talk about your programs? Rashmi! Yeah. So our next social is going to be October 8th at Roswell Junction. There's no cost to attend. I'm not buying your drinks either, but it's a great place to go and meet new people. And one of the things that AI Collective does, just as a ritual, Rashmi, come on in. Oh, Sean. Okay. So one of the things we try to do is just put first name and then your favorite AI tool, and it does 2 things. Number one, you're just going to remember the person's first name, right? But it doesn't say you're with a company, because we get a lot of people that come in and are like, oh, you're at Home Depot or whatever, and so we try to minimize that. So everyone's equal. But we talk about our tools and what are you doing with it?
That's, yeah, I 100% agree with the community space. If I'm messing around with a tool, don't really understand how to use it, talk to someone, it's gonna probably open up weird doors that I wouldn't have opened before. But I was, and you guys answered it with the newsletters, just on my own, on the side, just to
Definitely.
keep up a little bit. That's what I was.
And there's a lot of groups in town. There's AI Safety down at Georgia Tech. There's AI Camp. They do stuff here and a couple other places. There's a lot of free events. There's paid workshops, and then there's certification that you can get into. It depends on the level you want to get to. But I kind of agree. Unless you're a reporter, it's probably better to settle in and be comfortable with it, because each one's a little bit different. And also, Depends on what ecosystem you're working in as either your employer or whatever you want to spend the money on. If you're a Google company or a Microsoft company, you're probably staying with that for work.
Yeah.
Others, yeah.
Is there a MCP, model context protocol server, like agent marketplace? I know there's a registry there.
Where there's packaging
Well,
goes up and sells them.
Wait, they have one. Sort of.
I think,
Question.
yeah.
Is there a marketplace?
Like
Oh,
a
yeah.
marketplace where they package
There are
them.
many. There are a dime a dozen out there already. But you can think of it as Android versus iOS. So Android had a lot of Play Stores type things when you had different app stores, applications, everyone hosted things differently. Versus a few of them act like iOS is where you have your own version of very curated list of MCPs which are tailored. So you have to pick and choose your poison there, but from a marketplace standpoint, there are diamonds in there.
Yeah, they have a bunch of apps, agents on their website.
Yeah, agents, and then you also can connect to MCP servers, like
Yep.
within our agents as well, so we have all that available.
Yeah, bigger than I know, sure. Other thoughts, any other questions, comments? Yep.
Does anybody work with Peace, the agentic commerce protocol?
The new one from Google for payments.
Or
I think it just came out today.
Just-
like,
ACP is
just
open
last
AI.
week actually.
But it wasn't sure by.
I think it's relatively, so this one you're talking about is ChatGPT and Stripe and
Yeah.
But
Etsy. I think it's,
ICP was launched and then it was absorbed, merged with A2A protocol.
I think this one is the ChatGPT. I think he's talking about ChatGPT. I've not got hands-on with it yet, but
What's the idea of it? Is it just
see,
sort of?
right now what OpenAI talked about today is that you can shop from within
You just
ChatGPT.
talk to it?
Like, yeah, you
Shop
can
it.
shop whatever, find this product, like a bag or something, you can make payment. So between OpenAI and Stripe, they've established a protocol, and Shopify and Etsy are selling their products there. So the effort is who's controlling your cockpit, right? So OpenAI wants ChatGPT to be the end all be all place.
Yeah.
So if the commerce protocol is open, you can potentially start selling stuff within there, and it just establishes a storefront through ChatGPT.
And you
Instead of-
already have your payments there,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
right? You have
Yeah.
the payments stored in ChatGPT,
Yeah.
so it's secure.
There are two things. One is the agent commerce protocol, which is OpenAI and Stripe. And then Stripe has also partnered with Google to create, I think, AP2, which is agent
That's-
payment protocol.
That came out 2
Which,
weeks ago.
that also came out 2 weeks
2 weeks
ago,
ago.
around how the payment can happen, but that's specifically through blockchain and Bitcoin, but they'll be expanding it to other things. The thing is, everything is managed by Stripe on the back end. So Stripe is really leading the charge on all of these protocols and trying to get into some of these and standardize.
The one I was reading about also mentioned Shopify. Does any of what you're talking about relate to Shopify?
That's what he was talking about.
Shopify,
That's the
as
agent
a
commerce
vendor,
protocol.
if you have a storefront, you can launch it. So Shopify and Etsy, because when you build a protocol, you need collaborators and ecosystem for people to gravitate. So why would I go to Claude? So everybody's trying to give a reason why ChatGPT is trying to become the consumer product, and Anthropic and Claude are trying to become the enterprise product. So they will build features and functions along those lines.
They're gonna become the what?
Enterprise is the consumer, so that's really the aim. More relevant, I think, if you're trying to build stuff, is Perplexity launched the search API.
But that's not a good one.
So that is a bigger thing.
Yeah, that's-
I'm not gotten around to thinking what could I do with it, but earlier search was restricted only to Google. Like Google would not expose its API for search, but Perplexity said why box everybody doing that? But they've now opened. So things like Firecrawl, they're all dead now.
Yeah.
Because you can route
You
your
can
search
just
to
search, you don't have to
Perplexity.
scrape anymore.
Yeah.
That's
So it's very, any app is now searchable. You can make discovery very easy from within your app.
And even going back to the Shopify, right, that's where your inventory and product catalog is. And even for Shopify, for the longest time, Stripe has been their payment gateway. So it's just routing that at Steve's point. Now, ChatGPT becomes your kind of marketplace to host all the shops that have subscribed to this stuff.
So they become the Amazon.
You know, like it's,
They get
it's going
paid,
into the
they would
shopping
get
space.
paid for part of that
Perplexity also tried to do the same, so it'll be interesting to see how it picks up. But yeah, it's becoming a more global marketplace to source from your external catalog, like or storefronts. And then Stripe was always the payment gateway, but it looks like they're leading the charge on how agents make the payments.
your tactical approach to building agents, especially as you're providing this as a service for clients? Because you mentioned you use all sorts of different tools. There's not like one single ecosystem maybe that you're working with. Are you signing up your clients for accounts with a bunch of different things and plugging them together, or do you host them yourself and build them with that, or like how do you approach that end of things? Because I think building agents can really have quite the spectrum of definition, and I mean, from I'm going to custom code an agent that does a specific thing or has a specific set of capabilities to I'm going to plug and play an NAM with a few other things and install this workflow. How do you approach that with your clients?
I think it depends on how you're going to price it and what you're going to price here. When I'm building agents on Mind Studio, for instance, the way Mind Studio's and commercial site works is that you pay for the whole build and run platform. You cannot export your agents and host it on your own, right? So for smaller companies who I know will not have a shop to manage, host, or do any of this, and I don't want to have to be in the middle of it, I'll just create a separate workspace in the name of the client's own account. And in that case, where my commercial aspect comes is the initial build and maintenance, for instance, right? And the customer owns the workspace, and they own the agent. They own whatever costs are incurred for running the agent in terms of the LLM cost, because that's just as priced. There is no, Mind Studio doesn't have any additional charges on top of it. So that's one approach to do it. The other could be if you are looking to build if you are going to build and host agents for multiple clients and you are going to have your own cloud server for it, that's where I think NAGen becomes really powerful. You build it, you export it, you host it on your own cloud, and then you have some way to track usage and see if you're going to charge based on consumption or some kind of a standard monthly pricing. I don't think anybody has nailed it yet. I think everyone's figured out what's the right way to commercialize it. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
And I always start mine with asking, what's the process? What is the process? And I love Miro, so I diagram on Miro quite a bit. So I diagram out the process. And then somewhere in there, I just know what stack do you have right now. And then ask, some of them already have an agent aspect in the environment, if they're in Google, for instance, or Microsoft. If they can, we can start building the automations there. But I always start with a diagram and understanding the process, and just work on one part of the process, and that's it. And then map the stack to it. And it could be, to her point, you could build it on your own. I've not done one of these. I think Plum is another one. If you build the workflow and then you charge your client by tokens, like you make money from them using the workflow. I've not even done that in monetize it, so I don't know. That's actually a very interesting strategy. So someone wants you to build a workflow, and let's say it's just some simple .gen workflow. You build a workflow, but every time they use your workflow, they pay you. They put in their credit card and you get amount of tokens and the payment or how it works. So that's one way to monetize it. So there's different ways.
If I can make 2 cents off of 2 million people a day, I'm in.
Yeah. There's so many ideas of the little tiny little workflows that we can sell. And I'm like, somebody just build it for me. Like that part. The whole UI of this is the whole other web. It's the bolt of the world. It's how do you plug in the Stripe to the thing, and how does it?
Yeah.
When they sign up, is that portal somewhere else? Where's the username and the password stored? And then does it duplicate like a traditional software or SaaS? It duplicates the
You have validation on your phone.
yeah, it duplicates the thing, and then you got the other thing, and then you got to set it up, and that's a whole other world to productize these agents. And there's probably money to be made in that. If you take that out and boom, you can make money.
Yeah, that's a good call out, because agent is one thing, but if you're building a whole around it that requires authentication, authorization, payments, and things like that, then you're now not just building an agent, you're building a website, some kind of a portal, and that's where you have to either write code it and whatever is your tool of choice. And that's a different economics.
That's where these platforms are coming in. They're taking care of the payment. I would imagine, right, with Airia, is that sort of some of the ideas? You're absorbing that pain and hooking in Stripe or
Exactly.
You've got a universal token that whether you're using any LLM
That's the future right there.
Ultimately, yeah, those are the new infrastructures available now.
On that note, we're going to have a workshop with those folks coming up. We're thinking
That would
November.
be
Figure it out.
Yeah, we're thinking not October 8th, that's a social, but we're going to look at November and have it probably at their offices in Midtown.
Going back to what you were asking earlier, I think having a local company that's doing something cutting edge, it's right here, you can learn so much just from because you're going to ride the wave of their go-to-market.
Yep.
They're trying to educate on a lot of different things, so just tap into these guys. Get certified, you probably have a certification program.
Working on that.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
We got a
Yeah.
blog. We got a blog, so you can go check out our articles there.
Yeah.
Guinea pig.
Yeah.
But you know
All
what I
right,
mean.
we had another question over here.
Speaking of certifications, you mentioned the Azure Foundry.
Yeah.
Random podcast I was listening to on the way over said that Azure is doing well because they have multiple models. I was just
Yeah.
curious if your take on that. You're leaning toward Azure for that.
So there's an NLP model. There is, don't tell me, don't keep me honest, but there's a few different models that are set up via their own MCP servers on the back end that kind of do their own thing. So it's already leaning in a different direction than the standard LLM platform, so to speak. I don't know. Do you want to add? Azure is that your point that Azure had different models in different areas that you can go?
They were just making the point that I guess Azure, that a couple of years ago it was AWS, and then
Yeah.
went to Google, and he said, I did recently do a job search, and said that everything that came across his radar was leaning toward Azure.
Yeah, that's my opinion. That's why I took the certification, because I'm trying to get ahead of where we're going to be tomorrow. I'm trying to, what's next in 6 months, but Azure, and that's what I understood.
Any others?
They've got a lot of money. They're putting a lot. The government is funding Microsoft right now, so.
Got another point here.
Quick point for you. I have an agent that I built for the same thing because lots of newsletters, Reddit posts, we have YouTube transcripts, and the goal is to just get me 5 points at the end of the day, send it to me in an email, and that summarizes it all.
I want that.
I have a similar agent.
And like at the end of the day, I think there are a lot of questions about how to build an agent. I've always said AI is the solution everyone is trying to find problems from. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Start with, look around, you'll find some problems, like what you said, right? How do I keep up with AI news? Or if you're just sending out emails incessantly, how do you actually do that? Find one piece, try to use ChatGPT free or something that's available for free to automate part of it or just do something. You
Solve
don't
your
even
own
need to
problems.
use AI all the time.
Solve your own problems.
Yeah, like-
That's the fun.
You can use AI all the time. Like you can use AI to find tools. Like Feedly, for example, is a really good tool where you just put in AI and it gives you a list of every single news item with AI and some other terms in it. So you can start building things out, try to figure out these tools, and then Feedly. Yeah, it's the if you're familiar with RSS feeds. Okay, that was the old way of just getting like latest updates on websites, and so someone made a tool on that, and now with AI, some of those tools have just become API first, but you can still go to feedly.com and start using some of them. But eventually, just build an agent or some automation that helps pull in that data, and AI can just help summarize it.
I think it's a good use case for building your first agent.
Do you have it as a
Yeah,
template?
I agree. I think
Might, I'll have to check, but we can check it out.
Can we?
Yeah, if you don't
It will
have,
be.
if you don't have, create one.
Another question up here.
Question and answer.
Oh, comment, sure.
I feel like this is, I think, the third or fourth time I'm with the group, and I've been super lucky to learn about many different things. And I feel that there are so many people that either are starting their company, they're exploring different careers, maybe they're implementing something within their careers or starting a different business on the side. People have multiple interests, and I think it's okay with that. They may have their day job, and maybe they have also a passion project. So I think it would also be great to have a day in which we talk about all the resources and tools to actually learn about AI agents creation. I think that would be super cool. And another thing is that from following Swati on LinkedIn, when she came to the Roswell meetup, she made a video and she interviewed people. She asked people about the tools that they liked. And a gentleman said that he liked a tool that actually reads the newsletters for him as if it was a podcast. So now I need to go back to Swati's LinkedIn and see what was the name of that tool. Because that's great.
Google LM. Google what? Notebook. It's a Google product. So you gotta go Google Notebook. Just search. Notebook
Someone
LM.
that turns
Yeah,
text into a
you can
podcast.
make it a female voice, a male voice, or both.
Or even a single person speaking or two hosts.
Right,
So you
either
can
one.
edit things for them.
And video. Explainer
And I
videos.
can use that to
Yeah.
study and
We're officially out of time, but we're not out of pizza. And Carlos, you get the last question.
Thank you. Do you have an opinion on the AI action plan proposed by the White House? Have you seen it? Have you read it?
the one.
By the President of the United States.
What's your opinion on that?
I think it's going to revolutionize everything that we're saying. It has three main pillars. One is developing open source infrastructure. Here, both data centers and open weight models. Two is change the workforce and make AI infrastructure available to companies in general so that they allow them. And three, of course, is making the United States sort of the leader worldwide in AI. So, super interesting read. It's just a high level plan. It's being implemented now with different policies and it's breaking down. But already Microsoft, whenever you hear Microsoft teaching offerings or learning offerings, they say this comply with the AI plan. So more companies are going to start talking about that.
The race is now to get to AGI.
That's for LLM companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
This is a very interesting one.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
yes, that's what will rule the world.
So a few things. Please take a pizza home as a prize from our friends here at Airia, because they're not, I don't know, take them. Number two, Roswell is going to be on the 8th. It's a social. We're going to have a content and creativity panel coming up. Tyler is going to lead that one. Tyler. And then we're going to have another social in Buckhead in November, early, like the first week or so. It's going to be the Bucket Shop Cafe. And then we'll also have the November workshop with Airia. And we're looking at having a December one big social with several other groups. And the idea there is make a Christmas party or holiday party and bring Toys for Tots. We've been doing that for a long time. And that's the Mutation Brewery. It's probably a Tuesday or Wednesday. And we're looking for ideas for events. I'm going to send out a survey, so you don't have to tell me. I won't remember everything. But we're going to send out a survey asking your opinions on what kind of topics you'd like to cover. Great when you mentioned, just talking about tools. We thought about having a new Tool Tuesday just online, like every Tuesday at noon to 1, just to come talk about whatever tool of the week is, notebook or chat or whatever. Other big ideas we're thinking about are hackathons, pitch nights. There's been $95 million spent on startups so far through AI Collective. And one of the ones I'd like to personally do sometime first quarter is going to be a job fair. And that'd be a whole day long kind of thing. It takes an effort. So you guys are part of the village. It takes a village. You want to get involved, let me know. Also, sign up on this list over here for our local list. You're already on the national Luma list. We've got your email there from Luma if you signed up on that. But this is, I get more information about what you might want to volunteer for and like what you're doing with AI. So, big hand for our panelists. Big hand for you guys as well. Thank you very much for coming. And we'll see you on October 8th. Thanks.